My name is Alara, and at 35 years old, I never expected my world to be so silent. The silence is a new thing, a heavy blanket that settled over my life 3 months ago, the day I lost Liam. He was my husband, my partner in all things for 11 years, my anchor in the wild sea of life. A sudden, massive heart attack stole him from me, leaving a void so vast I could feel the wind whistling through it. Just days after we laid him to rest, in the raw, disorienting fog of early grief, I found myself at my nephew Leo's first birthday party. I went because Liam would have wanted me to, because he believed in showing up for family, no matter what. It was there, amidst the cheerful chaos of blue balloons and baby laughter, that my younger sister, Clara, detonated a bomb in the ruins of my life. She announced, to a backyard full of stunned guests, that her son, Leo, was actually Liam's child. She held up a document she claimed was a new will, one that bequeathed half of our home, our beautiful, sun-drenched craftsman bungalow worth nearly $1 million to the son she claimed was his. What she couldn't see, what no one in that stunned crowd could possibly understand, was the profound, almost surreal calm that settled over me, a stillness so deep it almost felt like laughter. If you are reading this from a place where the complexities of family have left their mark on your own heart, I invite you to stay with me. The path I walked next was not about revenge, but about unearthing a truth more powerful than any lie, and in doing so, rediscovering myself. Liam and I found each other 12 years ago at the Port Blossom Annual Arts Festival. I was a fledgling landscape designer, volunteering at a booth for local artisans. He was an architect who had just moved to town, drawn by the city's blend of historic charm and modern innovation. I was captivated by a hand-thrown ceramic vase, its glaze a swirling mix of sea green and stormy gray, echoing the colors of our coastline. Liam bought it, not for himself, but for me. "I saw the way you kept coming back to it," he said, his voice as warm and steady as his smile. "It's like it was made for you." That was Liam. He didn't just see things, he saw into them. He saw the potential in an old building, the story in a piece of pottery, the unspoken feelings in a person's eyes. Our first date was the next day, a long walk along the bluffs overlooking the Pacific, and it felt less like a beginning and more like a continuation of a conversation we'd been having our whole lives. He spoke of buildings as living things, spaces that should breathe and nurture the people within them. I spoke of gardens as extensions of the home, places for growth and quiet reflection. We were two sides of the same coin, builders of sanctuaries. 8 months later, on that same bluff with the sea mist clinging to our clothes, he asked me to be his wife. We bought our house in the Willow Creek Heights district a year after we were married. It was a 1920s craftsman bungalow, a stretch at $950,000, but Liam had just made junior partner at his firm, and my landscape design business was starting to blossom. The house had what Liam called honest bones, strong lines, rich Douglas fir trim, and a wide front porch perfect for watching summer thunderstorms. The backyard was a neglected patch of weeds, but I saw a future there, a stone patio, climbing roses, and a lawn where our children would one day play. Those children, however, remained a dream we couldn't quite grasp. For years, we journeyed down the difficult road of infertility. It was a path paved with hope and heartache, with temperature charts, doctor's appointments, and 4 grueling rounds of IVF that left our savings depleted and our spirits bruised. I remember the drive home after the last failed attempt, the silence in the car thick with unspoken grief. Liam reached over and took my hand, his thumb stroking my knuckles. We didn't need words. We had shared the hope, and now we would share the letting go. Later that night, sitting on our porch swing, the scent of jasmine heavy in the air, Liam pulled me close. "Our life can still be a masterpiece, Alara," he whispered into my hair. "You and me. That's the foundation. Everything else is just the garden we grow on top of it." And he meant it. We grieved the family we thought we'd have, and then we began to build a new dream. We traveled, we poured our hearts into our work, and we transformed that house and its neglected yard into the sanctuary we'd both envisioned. Liam championed my business, celebrating every new client, his belief in me a constant, gentle tailwind. Our life was full, rich, and deeply happy, just different from our original blueprint. My sister, Clara, for years my junior, was a constant figure in the periphery of our life. While I was the planner, the nurturer, Clara was a whirlwind of impulse and drama. She moved through jobs and relationships with a restless energy our parents mistook for passion. They worried over her constantly, a worry that manifested as a continuous stream of financial bailouts and excuses for her chaotic choices. Our relationship was a tangled vine of love and rivalry, mostly from her side. She was beautiful, with a vibrant, magnetic charm that I, in my quieter way, had never possessed. But there was always a sharp edge of competition. When I started my business, she scoffed at my long hours, then lamented her own dead-end jobs. When we bought our house, she complained endlessly about her tiny, cramped apartment, a clear signal to our parents that she needed their help. It was draining, but Liam, with his deep well of empathy, always encouraged patience. She's your only sister, Alara. Family is complicated, but it's worth the effort. 2 years ago, Clara began dating Finn, a charismatic but unreliable musician. Their relationship was a public spectacle of fiery arguments and dramatic reconciliations. Then, at a tense Thanksgiving dinner, she announced she was pregnant. The news was a shock. Clara had often made dismissive comments about my desire for children, calling it a concession to convention. Yet here she was, framing this accidental pregnancy as a profound, spiritual calling. The old, familiar sting of envy pricked at me, a ghost of the grief Liam and I had worked so hard to put to rest. But I pushed it down, determined to find joy for her. I would be the best aunt I could possibly be. Leo was born healthy and beautiful. I was there at the hospital with a hand-knitted blanket and a heart full of love for this tiny new person. From the beginning, motherhood seemed to overwhelm Clara. The late-night calls began, desperate pleas for help with a colicky baby, tearful complaints of exhaustion. I stepped in without hesitation, watching Leo overnight so she could sleep, stocking her fridge with food, offering a steady, supportive presence. Liam was always kind and gentle when Leo was around, but he kept a certain emotional distance. At the time, I assumed it was a form of self-protection, a way to guard his own heart from the pain of our infertility. It was a plausible explanation, and in the quiet understanding of our marriage, I never thought to question it. Then came that Tuesday. A normal morning, the smell of coffee filling the kitchen. Liam complained of a strange pressure in his chest before he left for work. I begged him to stay home, to see a doctor. It's just indigestion, he insisted, kissing me. I'll call you after my site visit. That call never came. The next one was from a paramedic. By the time I reached the hospital, he was gone. He was 36. The days that followed were a blur of decisions and condolences, a surreal procession of sorrow. Clara was conspicuously absent through most of it. She sent brief texts: Leo's got a fever, can't find a sitter, and made only a fleeting, awkward appearance at the funeral, leaving before anyone could speak to her. I was too submerged in my own grief to register how strange her behavior was. 1 week after we buried Liam, Leo's first birthday arrived. The thought of celebrating anything felt like a betrayal. But my mother's gentle insistence wore me down. Liam would want you to be there for your nephew, dear. You know how he felt about family. So I drove to Clara's small rental house on the far side of town, a brightly wrapped gift on the passenger seat, the dark smudges of grief under my eyes too deep for any concealer to hide. I'd barely slept, the nights spent staring at the empty space beside me in our bed, the ghost of his warmth a constant, aching presence. I parked and sat for a long moment, gathering the strength to put on a mask of normalcy. I knocked. Clara's friend, Megan, opened the door, her expression a strange mix of pity and nervousness. "Oh, Alara, you came," she said, her voice tight. "Everyone's out back." The house was a sea of blue balloons. A banner proclaiming "Happy First Birthday, Leo" was stretched crookedly across one wall. A knot of people I didn't know huddled in the kitchen, their whispered conversations ceasing the moment I walked past. In the backyard, my parents sat at a picnic table, looking deeply uncomfortable. My father stood as I approached, his face etched with relief. "Alara," he said, pulling me into a hug. "We weren't sure you'd make it." "Of course," I murmured, placing the gift on a table laden with presents. "Where's the birthday boy?" "Clara's getting him ready," my mother said, her gaze skittering away from mine. The air was thick with an unspoken tension. Conversations stuttered and died when I drew near. I tried to make small talk, accepting condolences that felt both kind and intrusive. Finally, Clara emerged from the house, Leo balanced expertly on her hip. She was wearing a new dress, her hair freshly styled. She glowed with a nervous, triumphant energy. She barely glanced at me as she settled Leo into his high chair. Tapping a spoon against a glass, she called for everyone's attention. "Thank you all so much for coming to celebrate our little man," she began, her voice ringing with a theatrical confidence. "This past year has been full of surprises. And I have something to share. A truth I can't keep hidden any longer, especially now." A cold dread coiled in my stomach. Her eyes found mine across the yard. "Leo is not Finn's son," she declared, her voice unnaturally steady. "He's Liam's." The world tilted. The cheerful sounds of the party dissolved into a dull roar in my ears. I could feel my father stiffen beside me, could hear the collective gasp of the guests. "Liam and we had a brief affair nearly 2 years ago," Clara continued, her words sounding rehearsed. "It was a mistake, a moment of weakness. We never meant to hurt anyone. But he knew Leo was his son. And before he died, he made sure his son would be taken care of." She reached into her handbag and pulled out a folded document. "This is his updated will. It states that as his biological child, Leo is to inherit half of the house Liam and I owned." Every eye was on me. I saw it all, the pity, the morbid curiosity, the sheer, delicious drama of it. My parents looked ashen. And then, a strange thing happened. A deep, quiet certainty rose up inside me, pushing aside the initial shock. It was a lie. A preposterous, impossible lie. A small, sad smile touched my lips. "Oh, Clara," I said, my voice surprisingly calm. "May I see that?" Her confidence flickered. This was not the shattered, hysterical reaction she had anticipated. She walked over and handed me the paper. I glanced at it. The legal jargon was clumsy, the formatting all wrong. And the signature, it was a close imitation, but it was missing the unique, elegant loop Liam always used to connect the L and I in his name, a flourish I had watched him make 1,000 times on architectural drawings and love notes. I folded the paper neatly and handed it back to her. "Thank you for sharing this," I said, my voice even. "This is Leo's day. We can discuss your claim at a later time." I said a brief goodbye to my shell-shocked parents and walked to my car, the sound of frantic whispering behind me. Once inside, the door was closed, the illusion of calm finally shattered. But I didn't cry. Instead, a wave of cold, clarifying anger washed over me. Because my thoughtful, meticulous, and deeply honest husband had, in a way, prepared me for this very moment. He had left me the one thing I needed more than anything else, the undeniable truth. The seed of Clara's lie had been planted 3 years earlier, long before Leo was even a thought. We'd had her over for dinner to celebrate a new Joba rare moment of stability in her life. Liam, a wonderful cook, had made his signature risotto. I had to step away to take an urgent call from a client, a crisis over a planting scheme for a public space. When I returned 20 minutes later, the mood in the dining room had shifted. Clara had moved her chair closer to Liam's. Her hand was resting on his arm, and she was laughing a little too loudly. I chalked it up to the wine and her naturally flirtatious nature. But later that night, as we were getting ready for bed, Liam looked troubled. "I need to tell you something, Alara," he said, his expression serious. "While you were on the phone, Clara, she made a pass at me." He explained it wasn't overt, but a series of unsettling comments how lucky I was, how he deserved a woman who could really appreciate him. He had gently but firmly shut it down, and she had laughed it off as a joke. I was hurt, but not entirely surprised. It was typical Clara, pushing boundaries to see what she could get. We decided to let it go, hoping it was a one-time, wine-fueled misstep. It wasn't. In the months that followed, she sent him texts that were just a little too familiar, found excuses to touch his arm or shoulder when I wasn't looking, and once showed up at his office unannounced. Each time, Liam told me immediately. We were a team. There were no secrets. After the office incident, we tried talking to my parents. They were dismissive, suggesting Liam was misreading her friendly affection. My mother, in a moment of stunningly poor judgment, even suggested he might be flattered and was exaggerating. That night, Liam and I made a painful decision. We would create a quiet, protective distance from Clara. We began declining some invitations, ensuring we were never alone with her. Liam eventually blocked her number. Then, just over 2 years ago, came the event that rendered Clara's current lie an impossibility. Liam had been dealing with persistent pain and, after seeing a specialist, was diagnosed with a severe varicocele. Surgery was the only option. During the pre-op consultation, the surgeon explained that due to the complexity of the procedure, there was a significant risk to his future fertility. Given our long and painful history with infertility, the doctor gently raised the option of a vasectomy, performed at the same time, to resolve the issue permanently and prevent future health complications. It was a heavy decision. It meant truly, finally, closing the door on the possibility of a biological child. We sat on our porch for hours that night, talking and crying, and ultimately, we agreed. It was the right choice for his health and for our peace of mind. The vasectomy was performed. We told no one, not even our parents. After years of their well-meaning but invasive questions, we had learned to guard the privacy of our marriage and our bodies. A week after the surgery, as Liam was recovering in the garden, he said something that seemed almost paranoid at the time. "I don't think Clara's done," he mused. "One day, she might try something really desperate." He saw the doubt in my eyes. The next day, he made an appointment with our longtime family attorney, Mr. Alastair Finch. I went with him. Liam calmly recounted the history of Clara's behavior and then detailed his recent surgery and vasectomy. Mr. Finch, a kind, white-haired man who had known our family for years, listened intently. "Documentation is a form of protection, Liam," he advised. "Let's create a file. Medical records, your journal of her advances, copies of the texts. You hope you never need it, but if you do, it's an ironclad defense." And so we did. We created what Liam grimly joked was our Clara contingency file. We put the original his notarized, legitimate while leaving everything to me, the certified medical records, his detailed journal, and a letter from Mr. Finch in his safety deposit box at our bank. "Just in case," Liam had said as he turned the key in the lock. "Though I fully intend to be here, annoying you with my terrible puns, for another 50 years. The morning after Leo's party, I drove to the bank. The manager led me to the vault with quiet condolences. Alone in the sterile viewing room, I opened the box. On top of the stack of documents was a sealed envelope with my name on it, written in Liam's strong, familiar hand. My fingers trembled as I opened it. "My dearest Alara, if you are reading this, it means the unthinkable has happened, and you've needed this file. I hope it's decades from now, and Clara's drama is just a funny story we tell our grandkids, but if not, if she has tried to use my absence to hurt you, I want you to have this armor. Use it. Do not let your beautiful, forgiving heart be taken advantage of. Your loyalty is a gift, but it should not be a weapon used against you. Know that I loved you more than I have words for. Know that I am with you always. Yours, Liam." Tears, hot and cleansing, streamed down my face. Grief and love and gratitude all tangled together. My practical, wonderful husband had seen the storm on the horizon and had built me a shelter. I gathered copies of the essential documents and called Mr. Finch. Alastair Finch's office, in a restored heritage building downtown, was a sanctuary of calm and order. He greeted me not as a client, but as a grieving friend, his gentle handshake a small comfort. "I was so terribly sorry to hear about Liam," he said, guiding me to a leather armchair. "He was one of the finest men I've ever known." "He was," I whispered, "and it seems he was also more prescient than I ever gave him credit for." I laid out the story of the party, handing him the photo I'd taken of Clara's forged will. He studied it, his brow furrowed. "This is a clumsy forgery, Alara. But the audacity of it speaks to a deep desperation." I then showed him the contents of my file. He reviewed the medical records first. "Well," he said, a grim finality in his voice, "this is definitive. The vasectomy was performed a full 14 months before the child could have been conceived. It's a biological impossibility." He looked at Liam's journal, his expression hardening. "And this documents a clear pattern of harassment. Liam did well to protect you. What do I do, Alistair? I don't want a public spectacle. Leo is innocent in all of this. He's still my nephew." "First, we need to understand the why," he said. "Desperation of this magnitude almost always has a financial root. I'd like to recommend a private investigator, a man named Marcus Thorne. He's discreet, thorough, and compassionate." I agreed. 3 days later, Marcus's report landed on Mr. Finch's desk. It was worse than I could have imagined. Clara was drowning in over $75,000 of debt from credit cards and medical bills for Leo, who, I learned for the first time, had been born with a heart defect requiring costly surgery. Finn, the musician father, had vanished months ago, leaving her with a mountain of bills and an eviction notice. She had 3 weeks to pay 4 months of back rent or she and Leo would be on the street. The report also included text messages she'd sent to her friend Megan. "Megan, are you sure about this? It seems risky. Clara, what other choice do I have? Liam's death is my only way out. The house is my golden ticket. Alara has always had everything. It's my turn to get my share." Reading the cold, calculated words made me feel sick. This wasn't a spontaneous act of desperation. It was a premeditated plan to exploit my grief. "I have a choice to make, don't I?" I said to Mr. Finch, the file feeling heavy in my lap. "You do," he said gently. "You can pursue this through the legal system, which would likely result in criminal charges for Clara. Or you can use this information to force a private resolution. One that protects you, establishes the truth, and perhaps offers a path forward for the child." That night, I sat in my garden, the one Liam and I had built together. I looked at the sturdy stone walls, the resilient plants, and I thought about what it means to be strong. It doesn't always mean fighting. Sometimes it means building boundaries, firm and unbreachable, to protect what is sacred. I decided on a path. It would not be the path of retribution, but of truth. I called Clara. "We need to talk," I said, my voice steady. "Come to the house tomorrow." Alone. Clara arrived at 2 o'clock, her expression a careful mix of feigned grief and entitlement. I led her to the living room, where I'd set 2 chairs opposite each other. A small digital recorder sat on the coffee table between us. "I'd like to record our conversation, Clara. Given the legal document you've presented, I think it's wise for us both to have a record." She hesitated, then gave a curt nod. "Fine." I pressed record, stated the date and time, and got her verbal consent. Then I looked at her, truly looked at her, for the first time since the party. "Before we discuss the will," I began, "I want you to tell me your story. The whole story of you and Liam." She launched into her practiced narrative, a tale of stolen moments and secret passion. I let her speak, my heart aching not for her story, but for the man she was defaming. When she finished, I began to ask quiet questions. "Where did you and Liam meet?" "A hotel downtown. The Grand Heritage." "What was his drink of choice?" "What did he talk about when he was worried?" "What was the last book he read?" Her answers grew vague, her composure beginning to fray. "I don't remember every little detail," she snapped. "What does it matter?" "It matters because people who love each other know the details," I said softly. I opened my folder and slid the first document across the table. And it matters because your story is impossible. This is a certified copy of Liam's medical file. He had a vasectomy 2 years ago, Clara. It is biologically impossible for him to be Leo's father. The color drained from her face. Her hand trembled as she picked up the report. This could be fake. It's not, I said. Next. I placed the copy of Liam's legitimate, notarized will on the table. This is his actual will, filed with Mr. Finch. It leaves everything to me. As you can see, there is no mention of a child. Her bravado was gone, replaced by a frantic, cornered look. He must have made mine after. The will you have is a forgery, I stated, my voice devoid of emotion. A felony. And I also have this. I showed her the printouts of her text messages to Megan. And this. The investigators' report detailing her debt, the eviction, Finn's abandonment. I know everything, Clara. The lies, the debt, the desperation. I know it all. She stared at the pile of paper, the architecture of her lie crumbling around her. And then she broke. It wasn't the theatrical crying I was used to, it was the raw, ugly sobbing of absolute despair. I didn't know what else to do, she choked out. I'm going to be homeless. Leo and me, we have nowhere to go. You have everything, Alara. This perfect house, a perfect husband, a perfect life. My life is not perfect. The words tore from me, sharp with a year's worth of pain. My perfect husband is dead. And while I was trying to figure out how to breathe without him, you were plotting to steal my home and destroy his memory. The anger hung in the air, raw and honest. In the ensuing silence, her desperation felt real for the first time, stripped of its manipulative shell. He's Finn's son, isn't he? I asked, my voice softer now. She nodded, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. Yes. Liam never would have. He was always so completely yours. I took a deep breath, the path forward becoming clear. I could have you prosecuted, Clara. You know that. She nodded miserably. But I won't. Not for your sake. For Leo's. He is my nephew and I love him. Liam would have loved him. I leaned forward. So this is what is going to happen. You are going to tell our parents the truth. You will write a letter of retraction for Mr. Finch's files, stating that your claim was false and the will was a forgery. In exchange, I will help you. Not by giving you a piece of my house, but by helping you get on your feet. I will establish a trust for Leo's medical care and future education. I will help you find a new, stable apartment and pay the first few months' rent. But there are conditions. You will enter therapy. You will get financial counseling. And you will allow me to be a constant, present aunt in Leo's life. This is not a negotiation. She stared at me, her eyes wide with disbelief. Why? Why would you do any of that for me? Because that's what family does, I said, the words feeling both strange and true. They don't enable destructive behavior, but they do offer a hand up when someone is truly ready to climb. And because it's what Liam would have done. The family dinner a week later was the most difficult meal I have ever hosted. My parents listened in stunned silence as Clara, her voice small but steady, confessed everything. My mother's first instinct was to rush to her side, to soothe her. Oh, Clara, you poor thing. Why didn't you just come to us? Because this wasn't about needing a few $100s for rent, Mom, I interjected firmly but gently. This was about something much deeper. And part of the problem is that you've always rushed in to fix things for her. It has to stop. It was the beginning of a long, painful, and necessary recalibration of our entire family dynamic. For the first time, consequences were real and boundaries were drawn not with anger, but with love and a demand for mutual respect. As Clara was leaving that night, she paused at the door. Do you think you can ever forgive me? I looked at her, my sister, a woman I had loved and resented in equal measure my whole life. I don't know, Clara, I said honestly. Forgiveness is a landscape I haven't learned to navigate yet. But I'm willing to start walking. For Leo. And maybe, someday, for us. It has been a year since Liam died. The garden is in full bloom. The trust for Leo is active, and his health is stable. Clara is in therapy, working a steady job, and for the first time in her life, she is standing on her own. Our relationship is a delicate, tentative thing, a sapling pushing through rocky soil. We are learning to be sisters in a new way, an honest way. My grief for Liam is no longer a tsunami that threatens to drown me. It is the ocean itself, a constant presence, vast and deep, its tides a part of my own rhythm. I have started a foundation in his name, offering scholarships to promising young architecture students from disadvantaged backgrounds. His legacy is not just in the buildings he designed, but in the lives he can still help build. I have learned that love doesn't end with death. Liam's foresight, his love, protected me. It gave me the tools not to fight a war, but to build a lasting peace. And I have learned that my own strength is not in my ability to withstand pain, but in my capacity to grow around it, to let it carve new channels for compassion and understanding. Sometimes, the most devastating betrayals are not the end of the story. They are the harsh, painful catalysts that force us to define who we are, what we stand for, and what kind of love we are willing to fight to protect. If you have ever had to draw a difficult line with the people you love, I see you. It is one of the hardest and bravest things a person can do. I've started sharing more of my journey of rebuilding online, finding a community of people who understand that healing is not about erasing the scars, but about learning to see the beauty in a life that has been broken and put back together again. If this story has touched you, I hope you'll join the conversation. Your stories give me strength, and I hope mine can offer a little back to you. Thank you for walking this part of the path with me. Remember, healing is not a destination, but a journey, and you don't have to walk it alone.